Recently, one of the most popular series on my channel has become the backstories of the various multiplayer maps in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. You see, Treyarch has this history of putting various Easter eggs and secrets within their maps, but in Black Ops 4, it appears that all of those Easter eggs and secrets combine together to weave a very interesting and in-depth backstory. Now, some people say that these backstories are trying to replace the campaign that is lacking in Black Ops 4, whereas others say they are trying to weave the backstory for the specialist characters that we've talked about oh so much on this channel. Personally, I don't know, but what I do know is that each individual map in Black Ops 4 contains a very intricate story. So today, we are looking at Icebreaker. Now, as always, guys, if you do enjoy these backstories, want to see more, the way to show me is by simply hitting that like button, because the more likes these video gets, the more likely I am to make more of these videos and continue the series. So if you enjoy what you see, I would love it if you could hit that like button. The past couple episodes have got around 4,000 likes. I would love to see if we can get one of these over 5,000 likes. That would be absolutely amazing. So all I ask is if you enjoy, please hit that like button. And also, before we dive into the backstory of Icebreaker, I just want to let you guys know that later today, around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be streaming over on Twitch. We're going to be playing some Black Ops 4 multiplayer, and as you may or may not know, when I stream Black Ops 4, I always do an open lobby, which means it gives you guys a chance to actually play some Black Ops 4 with me. And at the end of the live stream, we may actually check out the new Battle Royale game called Apex, made by Respawn, which are the guys that made Call of Duty 4. So if you haven't already checked out the live stream and it sounds like something you're interested in, or you want to play with me, be sure to click that first link down in the description, and I'll see you over on Twitch. But guys, without further ado, let's jump in and actually look at the backstory for Icebreaker. So as far as Icebreaker goes, it takes place in the Arctic, and really there is two parts to this map. The first part is the submarine, which takes up the majority of the map. The second part is the actual Icebreaker. If you don't know what an icebreaker is, it's essentially a giant ship designed for breaking through ice and taking big long trips through the Arctic. But as far as the story goes, that starts with the submarine and that section of the map. And the reason why I say that section of the map is because that section is not just a submarine. It is also a couple of buildings that have began to fall into the ice, and this appears to have been there for a very prolonged period of time. The reason why I say that this has been there for a prolonged period of time is because throughout the area of the map, you can see a lot of areas with a lot of rust, especially inside the submarine. Some of the buildings have begun to become warped, fall apart, and just look all in all fairly disheveled. Especially once you go onto the submarine, you can even see the torpedoes inside the boat have began to rust, an area of the boat that you wouldn't think would be rusted. On top of that, in creating this video, I did some research to try to figure out how long the Icebreaker has been there and the buildings have been there based on the amount of rust in them, and it is actually very hard to figure out because normally in the ocean, salt water causes rust to happen faster. However, in the Arctic, the water isn't nearly as salty as other areas in the ocean. Because of this, it's very difficult to calculate how long it would take for this rust to occur. Also, we don't know what metals it's made out of, so essentially, it's hard to tell how long these buildings and the submarine have actually been there. But because of the rust, we can assume that they've been there for quite a good amount of time. Now, the other big question is, who does the submarine and Arctic base actually belong to? This one can be figured out actually pretty easy. And as it turns out, the submarine and base actually belong to the USA. The reason why we know this is, first of all, throughout the map, you can find several American flags throughout different areas of the map. Also, in the smaller boats of the map, there is a sticker on the engines that say, "Property of government for official use only," which of course could mean that these boats are a part of any government, but you have to remember that the writing here is also in English, which don't worry, that will come into play in a little bit. And then finally, a much smaller detail, but one I picked up on, is that actually inside of the submarine, there are these squares that indicate hazardous materials. Now, these squares are used by the NFPA. The only reason why I know this is because I'm certified as a firefighter and a paramedic, which, by the way, NFPA stands for National Fire Protection Association, which is generally speaking an American association. Now, in North America, that is the only area that these signs are actually used in, and predominantly in the USA. The only time you'd see them in Canada is if something is shipped from the USA or Mexico. USA and Mexico use these signs a lot. So by knowing this, this boat is very clearly either American or Mexican, and there is no Spanish found anywhere on this map, so we can assume that the submarine is American. Now the question is, why have the Americans set up a base here, had a submarine here? What is so important that the Americans are here for? And that we've actually answered in actually two previous episodes of this series. As we found on Contraband and Hacienda, there's a manifesto of this submarine. And on these manifestos, what we find is that up in the Arctic, the Americans are working on something called a nuclear retrieval device. Now, it's unclear what this device does, but it is clear that the mysterious man with the eye patch, who is in this picture on Hacienda, aka Raul Menendez, who is working with the Russians from militia, wants to steal this nuclear retrieval device. And that is what's going on the map Icebreaker. But of course, as you guys know, we are not going to stop there. First of all, some proof of this is around the submarine, there is many pieces of equipment and pipes that show the nuclear symbol and the nuclear warning throughout the entire map. They can be found on the sub, outside of the sub, in containers, being loaded onto the Icebreaker. Pretty much everywhere there is nuclear material on this map. Now, when we actually go ahead and look on the submarine, there isn't many things we can actually see, but one we see repeated a lot are several mini screens with radar on them. Now, in the main compartment of the sub, there is a very large version of this radar where we can see 3 triangles moving closer towards the submarine. The closest triangle is assumably Icebreaker, the boat that is already at the submarine. Assumably, though, there is also 2 other boats following up quickly behind. Now, if we look at the latitude where they are coming from is 45 degrees east approximately. Now, if you look at the Arctic, the country that is closest at 45 degrees is, of course, Russia. And this is 100% supported when you actually go ahead and look at the rest of this map. If you go and look at the boat itself, on the front of it, you can see a name in Russian. And of course, this translates to Arctic Sail, which is of course the name of the boat. Further, if you look at the rest of the map, you can see a Russian flag that has been stabbed into the ice after assumably this crew came and took over the American facility, which actually appears to have happened relatively recently. The reason why we know this, because unlike the submarine, the Russian equipment that can be found with, once again, Russian writing on it is all relatively new. There is no rust, and it doesn't look disheveled like the rest of the map does. All of the Russian equipment looks or appears to be pretty new, which, by the way, the Russian writing on these orange vehicles translates to Polar Rescue, which makes sense as we are well in the Arctic. So just a recap as to what is going on this map. This map takes place in the Arctic and is an American test facility for some sort of nuclear weapon known as a nuclear retrieval device. Now, at some point, this facility was attacked by the Russians on an Icebreaker ship, and they are trying to steal this nuclear retrieval device. Now, the question I have is exactly when did this happen? Now, I've searched the map and I can't get an exact date or an exact year, but we can limit it down because of the one screen inside the submarine. You see, this screen is interesting because there's really not that much information on it, and the only thing that's really moving is up in the top left-hand corner. Now, that thing you may recognize as a score streak from a previous Call of Duty game. It is not a score streak from Black Ops 2, Black Ops 4, but rather Black Ops 3. This is the Cerberus from Black Ops 3 specifically. Now, the interesting thing about this is that because we see this, it is not the Mantis like we have in Black Ops 4, which means that the events on the ship must happen close, or if not after, the actual events of Black Ops 4, because instead of using a Mantis, this company is using a Cerberus from Black Ops 3, which we know takes place in 2065. So therefore, the events of Icebreaker must take place close to the end of Black Ops 4 or the beginning of Black Ops 3. Now, there are 2 other Easter eggs revolving around Icebreaker that I wanted to look at. One that is very tiny and one that is quite large. We'll start with the tiny one, and this is once again found on Hacienda. We find out that the name of the submarine in this map is actually called Arctic Wolf. Now, I knew I recognized that name from somewhere, but Arctic Wolf was actually an air code in Black Ops 3 that a lot of you may have actually seen. And I thought that was a really interesting Easter egg. But the second thing I wanted to look at was specifically a theory that I cannot prove, and as always, we just kind of try to figure out and get to the bottom of this in the comment section. So there are two specific areas on the map Icebreaker where the biohazard symbol can be found. One of them is on the submarine, the other is being loaded onto the Icebreaker ship. One theory is that this is some Nova 6 gas. We have found Nova 6 on previous maps that we've looked at, and on every single map that we've looked at so far, there has been some sort of reference to zombies. As far as I'm concerned, this is the only thing on the map Icebreaker that can at all be related to zombies. So this one, I leave to you guys. I am curious, what do you guys think is in these containers? Do you think it's something to do with zombies? Do you think it's something else altogether? Personally, I don't know, but I would love to hear what you guys think down in the comments. But ladies and gentlemen, like I said before, if you enjoy this type of video, you would like to see more, the way to show me is by simply hitting that like button, because the more likes these video gets, the more likely I am to continue on this series and make more videos just like it. So like I said before, let's see if we can get this thing over 5,000 likes. That would be absolutely incredible. And guys, if you like what you see here and want to stay up to date on all my videos, the best way to do so is make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you have notifications on. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard.